So for people that are unfamiliar with you, you worked at the Canadian Olympic Committee for quite some time. You have a background with a number of different sports teams in the U.S., including the Miami Dolphins and the Florida Panthers, as you were mentioning earlier. You also worked for the MLSE, the owners of Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Raptors. So why Overwatch? Why are you here?
So what's a nice guy like you doing in a place like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's been interesting to me for a while now. A couple of years ago, I was introduced through a mutual friend to the team at Activision Blizzard. This would have been fall of 2016, early part of 2017. And had a chance to meet with Nate and Pete and all the gang over there. Spent a little time with Mike Morheim and really came to understand a little bit about the strategy that they were building out and the thinking that they had around building out the Overwatch League. And I must say I was completely blown away by the vision, frankly, and also by the quality of the people that were attached to all of this. But I never imagined that I would find my way into this situation. It actually goes to a relationship I have with our existing chairperson, Sheldon Pollock of Overactive Media. We knew each other back in the 90s, and when they got started on this project, started to look at what the potential would be, he gave me a call and asked me to come over and have a look, and the rest is history.
So you're like the top boss at the Canadian Olympic Committee. That's quite the high position in Canadian sports. What is that like? What are you weighing when you get that call and you go, should I take the jump for this new venture, or should I stay in my very nice job that, you know, very highly decorated job?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, first of all, I'm really, really very, very proud of the time spent in the Olympic movement and with the Canadian Olympic team. Really proud of the team that we built and the things that we accomplished together. And it was a really difficult decision to leave. And you know, if you want to stay relevant in your professional life, if you want to be thinking about the future, you need to be keeping your eyes on things like are going on right now in the eSports space. And I'm a builder. We had done quite a bit of work over 7 or 8 years with the Olympic team to reestablish that brand and to build that organization. We built a wonderful team of people that really worked well together and accomplished a lot of great things. And that work will always need to go on, but I felt like I had accomplished as much as I likely could in that circumstance. And so when I was presented with a new opportunity to be part of building something from the ground up, that seemed really appealing to me.
What's really interesting to me about the Toronto Defiant business and then this franchise, it's a whole mixed bag of goodies. You know, I've known the people at Splice for a very long time, and I got to meet the Kimballs earlier this week, the family that is majority funding this team. And you kind of look at the ownership group. From your perspective, how did they all come together to get together in this one mix where they're all on the same team?
Well, again, my attachment to this comes through Sheldon Pollock
Right.
and Adamu, who were working together on this project for a long time. Mike Kimmel and Ryan and Jeffrey Kimmel were all introduced to Sheldon and Adam to myself as part of the process and the conversation with the league. I can tell you, you're quite right. It is a great marriage of skills and experiences. You've got Sheldon, who's an industry, really a tech industry expert and innovator and investor in Canada. Adam with his early venture capital, his early stage investment experience. And the Kimmel family bring great entrepreneurialism and great success at the retail level. And then you mix in a little Splice, Marty and his team for the endemic experience and my experience from professional sport. And we feel like we've got a really good mix of talent and background that should put us in a place to be competitive on and off the match.
It's a big task to build a franchise from ground up. When you're looking at that, what do you think the most important cornerstones are of building a franchise from literal scratch?
Yeah, that's the right question. It starts with the people. I've been in the fortunate place to work with some great organizations and for some great leaders, and every one of them to a man and a woman understood, those that I worked with and for, understood that the team is the most important piece. You don't get very many opportunities in your career. If you do, you're fortunate to build out an organization from scratch, and you should want to do that with people that are of like mind and great passion and that you're going to have fun with every day. And for us, that starts with the ownership group, and then we've been starting to round out our team at Overactive Media with some folks that I know and have worked with in the past. The connection with Marty and his team has been really great right from the beginning. So you've got to start there. Then you've got to look at, you know, who are you serving? And in our case, as in any sports franchise, you're serving your fans. So we've had a great connection, I feel, with them from the beginning. we were about 3 days into this and we had 10,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah.
We got into the timing of launching our event just about 10 days ago. And in that process, by that time, we had gathered up a little bit more than 23,000 followers. And we had only 350 invitations for that event, and they were gone in 14 minutes. So we should want to honor that and make sure that we're listening well to those folks, and to make sure that as we build this and as we go along and start to define what the brand is and how it stands and what it means, that we're speaking to our fans and engage with them in that way. And then finally, you need to win. And by that I mean, over time, your fans are going to have an emotional connection to this brand if you're competitive. And if you're listening to them and working with them, that's a big part of it. But you've got to be perennially competitive if you can be. And when I say that, I mean both on and off the field of play. So we're going to want to be winners in the competition, and we're going to want to be winning off the court as well and in the boardroom.
In the season 1 of the Overwatch League, there were no Canadian teams. There were a lot of people that Activision Blizzard talked to in Canada, many I'm sure who you know. It's different now, there's 2 of them, and it opens up a very competitive opportunity for both of the teams to vie in a market, to represent the home country of Canada. When you look at that, what do you think this means to Canadian sports overall?
Well, I like to think that we arrived quite loudly with the fan support that we've had already. It's a growing space, of course, and it'll take some time for us to get our feet under us, but our fans have given us a really great leg up, I think, from the beginning. It'll be interesting to see how the rivalry develops around Vancouver and Toronto. I mean, there'll be a natural geographic rivalry as well, but I think some of that will be defined by the fans. We've got Coach Bishop, who, of course, started with the London Spitfire, and so we'll see, but it would make sense to me that there might be a rivalry that would be born out of that background in history. Toronto's one of the truly great global cities in the world, so we might see, natural rivalries develop with New York and LA and maybe London. But our fans will tell us how that goes over time, and we'll see how the players line up and what evolves from all of that. But I think what's really interesting to us in the short term is this fan base has been percolating just under the surface, and this team and this Toronto Defiant brand has given them an attachment that they've not had before, and we intend to again celebrate that and honor that every chance we get. And I think that's going to be a really interesting journey with them. It already has been, frankly. So we're excited to fuel it and to see where it takes us.
If reports are correct, you have 14 months to figure out what you're doing, how you host, how you get butts and seats. Yeah. Your background with the Leafs and the Raptors you were mentioning is in ticket sales and getting people in the door. How do you do that here? What does that strategy look like if you're looking, early on?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. Certainly it'll be informed, I think, by the experience that I had early days with the Raptors. So I wasn't there for the first year of the franchise. I joined shortly after in September, heading into their second season. But, I was a big part of working with that team and a guy named Steve Griggs, who today is the president and CEO of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Steve and I worked together with a great group of people there to build out the ticket sales strategy for the Leafs and the Raptors in the Air Canada Centre during those years. I think we did some things really well, and there'll be a lot of learning there. We had, if you watch the Raptor games in particular right now, you see that fan base looks like the city looks. It's diverse and multinational, and our city is so inclined. It's inclusive and diverse in that way, and many cultures represented in Toronto, and we should want to be, again, a fan base that speaks to the city in that regard. I'm always really proud when I watch the Raptor games and I see the crowd that's there. And a big part of, I think, the way that came to be was because we made tickets available and affordable to the fan base early. We played in what was then known as the Sky Dome, today is the Rogers Centre. We played our first 3 seasons in that building, and we had a lot of seats that we could have sold, but we had $5 hoop seats in those days. So a young family could come and have an NBA Raptor experience. Then when we moved into the Air Canada Centre, we sold a lot of tickets for premium money, but we kept those tickets, we kept, I think, 500 or 1,000 seats in the building that were priced at $10 in the Sprite Zone. And as a result, we built a generational fan base over time. So we're going to need to feel it out. We're going to need to figure out what venues work and how we price those tickets to be accessible and affordable to our fans. And we're all in this for the long haul. We really believe in the long-term enterprise of the Overwatch League and our Activision Blizzard partners, and we're going to want to make sure it feels that way for our fans too.
This is a big bet. The Overwatch League was a big bet for people last year, and it's still not complete, in my opinion. The results are not in. Certainly a great Season 1, but the biggest test is Season 3 and beyond. You know, it's gotten even bigger of a bet. It's a bigger financial commitment in Season 2 for so many of these teams, you all included. What do you have to do? How do you measure its success? What do you look at and go, all right, this worked?
Well, like I said, the first thing I think, sports is not for the faint of heart, and investment at this level, not for the faint of heart. But we have a great group of owners, and we really believe in our league partners. Activision Blizzard is the leader in this space, right? They build the best games and the most enduring franchises, and I don't think there's any disputing that. That's a very smart group of people. And what is maybe most impressive is the way they listen to their community and the way they build their games out and respond to their fans and so on. And there's a lot of lessons in that for sport generally, I think. And what they're doing is they're taking that group of people, those people that have built those enduring franchises and have that expertise, and they're marrying them with some of the smartest people in traditional sports. They've hired some incredible folks on the revenue side and the marketing side of the business that emanate from the NBA and the NFL and many of the other major leagues. And that combination thereof, we really feel strongly puts us in a great place for a long time here. So this is a league that, you're right, it's just getting started, and there's still elements that we're going to need to define and grow over time. But they're off to a fantastic start, and our confidence in that partnership with them is really, really high. I think our success will be defined over time in totality as a league. All of the franchises have a responsibility and an expectation, I think, of each other, that we should build the league together with our league partners and make sure that we're always advocating for what's best for the league. On the other side, we all, of course, want to grow profitable businesses in our respective markets, and that'll be defined by all the traditional measurements that go with that. So our ability to drive sponsorship, regional content and digital sales, sell ticket sales eventually in those markets. All those measurements will apply to our sport franchises just as they do the others. And then over time, the way we'll define success in Toronto will be our ability to contend to win. We want to win championships. And this is just the beginning of the strategy for Overactive Media. We've got a long-term plan to build out a professional eSports organization that looks like Madison Square Gardens or Maple Leaf Sports. We intend to hold multiple city franchises inside our business. We'll build brands, and we'll build player brands, and we'll build content that's for sale and available to our fans. All of this is a long-term play for us, and we'll take it on that way.
You're here at BlizzCon. I don't know if you've got to watch the Overwatch World Cup yet. You worked in the Olympics for 8 years, and you see that nationalism, it's disassociated from the Olympics. What does that make you think? How do you feel about seeing all these fans that are getting behind their country rather than their local franchise?
Yeah, well, listen, rising tide lifts all boats, and Olympic hockey, in the context as a Canadian, Olympic hockey is absolutely fantastic for the NHL and for the local franchises that play in the National Hockey League, just as the Olympics or just as the World Cup will be a part of strengthening the Overwatch League and strengthening that fan base on a global basis as we go along. It was interesting to me to watch the match today. The only thing that was missing for me were the anthems. And I was actually quite surprised by that we didn't play the national anthems of the two countries that were playing this morning. I'm hoping to catch a glimpse of the Canada-France match in a little while here. But listen, anything that builds the league is and the game is good for everybody. And I think over time you're going to see this take on more prominence on a global basis. There's an international federation that's building out around eSports that I'm quite aware of. In fact, Charmaine Crooks, who was a former board member of ours in the COC, I think has been involved in helping do all that for some time now. All of this is just only going to get bigger. All the indications say so. And the rest of it's up to us and how we build it out and how we bring energy to it that makes sense to the fans.
I'll leave you with this. The esports in the Olympics, they've kind of flirted with each other. I'll say that. There was the StarCraft tournament with Intel Extreme Masters in Yonggi, and
won by a young Canadian woman.
Correct, Scarlett. And there was the meeting this past summer of all the people getting together, the Olympics hosting all these different people from esports backgrounds. As someone who worked in the Olympics for a significant amount of time, you look at that marriage, is it possible, and do you think it's something that's worthwhile in the long run?
Oh, I think it's very possible. And I think, If you look at the Olympic brand, I'm a very, very big believer in the Olympic brand, and it's truly today, like the World Cup, frankly, still one of the great events in the world that the world pauses for. It's a great celebration for humanity and a great celebration for sport. And they could really stand to think about the next generation of fans and think about how relevant to their brand and brand strength over time that they build a younger audience. And I think esports can be a big part of that play. So there'll be a number of conversations still to have, a number of things still to work out. But I'm quite optimistic it's going to find its way into the conversation. Whether it truly ends up ever being an Olympic sport, I think is still a question to be answered. But look, Casey Wasserman sits on the board of the Activision Blizzard team, and he happens to be the chairman of LA 28. So if ever there was going to be a logical point for a conversation, it might revolve around LA. So we'll see.